Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Movie Monday. This week, I'm going to run through my thoughts on Spider-Man Homecoming, which I saw a couple times this last opening weekend. As is usual in these cases, I'll start off with a spoiler-free portion of the review, and then I'll dive into a few spoilers that I really appreciated and enjoyed at the end. But up front, I really enjoyed the movie overall. It serves as a great coming-of-age story for Peter Parker slash Spider-Man. It's the first time we've really gotten to experience him in like the prime of his high school years. Yes, other movies and other incarnations have kind of thrown him into high school, but it hasn't always been believable with the age of some of the actors, and in the first series especially, high school, like he was graduating high school basically when the movie, by the end of the first act of the first movie, he graduated high school. High school has never really been like at the forefront of these films, I don't think, but it's all over this one. You're finally getting a Peter who is young and vulnerable, both out in the suit, because he's still kind of learning his abilities and the powers and whatnot, but also just he's emotionally vulnerable because he's a teenager who is kind of coming to terms with high school life and crushes and all that kind of stuff. As I put it in my written review, which you can read if you go to the link in the description below at trevortrove.com, this is a movie that's not about a world-ending thing, except when it is about a world-ending thing, because in high school, everything is a world-ending thing. So even though he's not fighting big monsters in space or anything like that, he is kind of trying to maneuver through the hurdles of being a 15-year-old boy in high school. Performances are great pretty much across the board. Tom Holland does wonderful work as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I think he is probably my favorite of the incarnations we've seen. I liked Tobey Maguire and the Sam Raimi films, but I thought Andrew Garfield played a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire, but he was saddled with worse films. And here you have Tom Holland, who's doing justice to the character, and he's also in a good movie that kind of supports him and his work in the character. You also have Michael Keaton putting in a great performance as Adrian Toomes, a.k.a. the Vulture. He kind of plays him really as a kind of blue-collar working man kind of villain who's really only doing this to support his family, as he says time and time again. He's doing this to support his crew, but he's kind of been working in the criminal underworld as an arms dealer and thief for years at this point, so I think that's kind of seeped in and left him a little worse for wear. You also have Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau kind of reprising their Marvel Cinematic Universe roles of Tony Stark and Happy Hogan, respectively, and both of them are doing the great work expected of them. They're serving in the role of kind of a supervisor slash mentor for Peter as he kind of goes about developing his skills and powers and becoming the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And then you have some strong performances from the kids. Zendaya, who plays kind of the aloof academic decathlete Michelle. She's got great little kind of one-liners pretty much every time she pops up on screen, just kind of as a sardonic little punk high school kid, which I really appreciated and gave me a good chuckle pretty much every time. And then you have Jacob Batalon's Ned, who is probably going to be the most divisive character of the film, I think, because he kind of really straddles the line between like super enthusiastic, supportive sidekick and sidekick that kind of gets a little annoying and in the way and kind of impedes Peter's growth and process at times. Ultimately, he ended up winning me over, but I can very easily see other people kind of walking out of the movie and saying, oh my god, there was too much Ned in this movie. Humor is great, action is great. The struggles of Peter being a high school student and Spider-Man and really having to juggle kind of both elements of his life are the best, for my money, in any of the incarnations we've seen so far. And it really is sold because of his youth and his vulnerability. So those are my spoiler-free thoughts. Go check out the movie. If you like Spider-Man movies, if you like comic book movies, if you like coming-of-age movies, I think it can check any of those boxes. Coming-of-age movie, you're going to have to also like a little bit of like superhero-ness in it, but I think it serves as a good I mean, they definitely take inspiration from like John Hughes films and stuff like that. So I think you can kind of appreciate all of those elements in this film and walk out smiling. So now I'm going to get into some of the things I liked spoiler-wise, so you've been warned, spoilers ahead. As with, I think, pretty much every video and review I've kind of seen on Spider-Man Homecoming, I was delightfully surprised by the third act reveal of Michael Keaton's character as the father of the girl that Peter has a crush on, and the 10 minutes that we kind of get of the two of them figuring out who each other is probably the best 10 minutes in the movie. I feel like somehow we so seldom get that level of surprise in a movie, especially like a big blockbuster movie like this. So it was really delightful to kind of be kind of blown away and not know what was happening in that moment. Turning the audience expectation on its side. The film is expertly kind of set up that, yeah, those little elements are dropped in there if you're really super keen and observer, and they become super obvious the second time you watch the movie, but it kind of lulls you into a false sense of security in the few minutes leading up to it, where, okay, he's lost the suit, so he's giving up on things, he's going to focus on his studies, he's going to focus on being Peter Parker, being the student, and going to Homecoming, and then he shows up and his Spider-Man life comes rushing right back in, and it's just great pacing and really does a great job to set up the final act of the film. I also loved a lot of the Easter eggs that are kind of sprinkled throughout the movie. One of the ones that I caught in my first viewing that it was a small one, but it's one that I saw and really appreciated. The person who plays the principal, actor Kenneth Choi, also played one of the Howling Commandos in Captain America: The First Avenger. He was Jim Morita in the event in Captain America, and here he's Principal Morita. He's a grandchild, presumably, of that character or something, and he's got even that character kind of up in his office in a picture. Just a small little thing that I caught and appreciated. Pretty much everything Captain America, Chris Evans, has to do in this movie is hilarious. All of his little interstitial, very kind of PSA videos for high school students, and the way that they're played off. So the one he says, you know, your gym teacher will do this, and Hannibal Buress's gym teacher is over here on the other side, and making a joke about, well, I think he's a war criminal now, but I still have to show you this stuff. That probably the funniest line in the movie. If not that, probably the one later where Ned is getting caught being in the library trying to help Peter out, and basically writes it off as he was watching porn. Great moments, a lot of good comedy throughout. The after credits thing, again with Chris Evans, was a lovely kind of meta joke about how dumb it is that we wait for all these after credits sequences. And then the mid credits one, I appreciated because it does a great. It gives Michael Keaton one final great character moment after he's kind of been taken in and in jail, and he knows who Peter is, but he doesn't give up Peter's identity, be it because he wants to deal with Peter on his own, or more likely, I think, because he kind of sets it up earlier that he lets Peter go because Peter saved his daughter's life. He saved his own life here. So I think he kind of feels like he owes Peter, even if he is in jail, he's alive because of Peter. But it does do a nice job. I love the actor that we saw there. I am going to forget his name, so I'm not even going to try it. But in Better Call Saul, and he was Vaz in Far Cry 3, and he's being set up and positioned to play Scorpion, one of Spider-Man's villains in the future. So I look forward to seeing him come back. I thought Donald Glover's little cameo and who he plays as being kind of the uncle of Miles Morales, it's a great nod to him existing in that world, as well as like the fan kind of petitions that happened where people wanted Donald Glover to play Miles Morales, and then of course he did voice the role of Miles Morales in some of the animated stuff. So it's great seeing him, and he also just did a great job he did a lot with a little, I think. He's in there kind of to move the plot along, but he makes fun of the fact that, like, Peter's bad at the interrogation part of the job. I just don't think I'm ever going to be mad about seeing Donald Glover on screen. So yeah, those are some of the more spoilery things about Spider-Man Homecoming that I really appreciated. So if you were one of the millions and millions of people who also saw Spider-Man Homecoming this last weekend, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from trevortrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. As I said earlier, you can read the full written review on trevortrove.com at the link in the description below. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.